then, my brethren, how about a Cockney funeral?
Hello and welcome to the show where we tell our guests it's your funeral. This week I'm talking to a man whose hit single Make Me Smile instantly joined the ranks of the pop classics in 1975. He was the original Cockney rebel and he's still going strong today. He is Steve Harley. And Steve, it's your funeral.
Premature.
Yes, absolutely. We're talking in the dim and distant, we hope. I called you the original Cockney rebel there, which I'm sure is something you probably get fed up with, but will it be the funeral of a rebel?
If you look back far enough, you know, you would have to say that, but like any half-sensible human being, of course I've grown up and matured and mellowed, and I'm not ashamed of that, you know. You do. I've been writing songs and recording for 27 or 28 years, and I've got children. And I didn't continue the mad life that I led and fighting everywhere I went, and, you know, not literally physically, but, you know, standing up and fighting back everywhere I went and getting renowned all over the world. My reputation still precedes me everywhere for being difficult and arrogant and all these things.
I know you're very involved in your local church. Now, I asked you at the beginning, you know, is it going to be the funeral of a rebel? That's perhaps not an image that people might associate with somebody who is, you know, a genuine rock and roller.
I'm not terribly involved. I'm on the parochial church council, but, you know, I live in a village no bigger than a hamlet. There are, I think, 120 people live there, including children. There's a congregation in my wonderful Norman parish church, Norman Stone Church, and there's a congregation of between 8 and 12. Most weeks, you know.
But including the minister.
Includes the minister and the organist, and it's they sort of rode me into the PCC about 12 years ago, and I quite enjoyed it. Putting in my 2 bobsworth, you know.
What do you get out of that?
It keeps me in the real world. It helps. Partly that, other than kids and their schools and all those problems, it helps with keeping me in the real world, you know.
And do you do your bit? I mean, do you do a reading?
I read the lesson, which I totally adore. We're old school, you know, King John, nothing new about it, and I wouldn't like it if it were. I like the traditional Bible, and I do, when I'm there, I do read the epistle, yeah.
So what about this funeral of yours? How would you envisage it?
But I do like a bit of a shindig, a bit of a knees up, you know, and while I wouldn't want to see my family's legacy spent on a complete, utter piss-up, I'm not sure I'd like that, but I definitely have some wonderful friends who would read in my absence, would read important stuff for me, you know, and that should be a church service because I believe in it, you know. But on the other hand, they'd be looking at a coffin that's got Steve's soul has gone. I don't believe at all in the human, the physicality of it. I believe that the soul goes away and, God willing, to a better place, or at least a decent place.
Is that heaven?
Well, you hope there's a heaven. You know, you pray there's a heaven.
Do you think you'll get in?
Well, I've redeemed myself to a fair degree in the last 18 years. For the damage I did, I've tried my best.
We'll get back to your funeral. It's entirely my fault
my
that
funeral.
we're not there.
It would certainly have to be in my beautiful little parish church, and I would get a few of my good mates to read some good words for me.
Right, so it'll be in your local parish church that you've been a part of for the last 10 or 12
and because
years.
I believe in the soul flying away, and then I would want all my organs that are perfectly good and forget my liver. But I would like all my better off organs to go anywhere. My eyes, my lungs, my heart, they can have my fingernails.
So the body doesn't matter?
Not in the slightest, no. I've seen a lot of death, a lot, as a young lad in hospital and as a reporter, you know. At 17 I was watching coppers scraping bits of brain off the road, you know, with a spade and putting it in a black bag, and that stays with you.
So would you go for a burial or cremation?
You can cremate me, it wouldn't matter one tiny bit, but I'd like to be buried, if there were space for me and it's running out, in my beautiful little churchyard. Yeah, it really is beautiful.
How do you feel about death?
I'm terrified. I don't want it. I don't like it at all. I would want to predecease my children, but I still want to live to be 100. You understand? Yeah. I'm unfulfilled. You know, you have to see, I am a creative artist, only with a small C and a small A. I'm a poet with a small P. Heaven knows I know this. But there's still a lot to achieve, you know. I don't, and I hate being sick. Absolutely hate illness.
Yeah.
No self-pity in my family, you see.
Yeah.
And I was dying as a 3-year-old when I caught polio in 1953, 54, whenever it was. I was within a hair's breadth of death. And I think that, and I spent years on and off in and out of hospitals, you know. And you just don't suffer people who suffer. It's, oh, come on, you know, how bad can it be? You know?
I mean, I would like to ask you more about that in a tick, but just that you mentioned that you're as yet unfulfilled. What's on your list?
Oh, to become a complete writer, it's well, I assume it's an unreachable goal, which is fine by me. I like unreachable goals. Then I never have to say, oh, I failed. It's ever out there, but it never seems to get any closer.
Can you think of a piece of work you've done so far that might find a place in your final farewell?
Well, they call Make Me Smile my pension. I mean, you know, of course, it's played everywhere all the time, and I'm very proud to have, you know, come up with that. There's another song I've been singing on tours, just 2 acoustic guitars and voice, a song called A Friend for Life. When you hear it, you're aware that I couldn't possibly have written it when I was 27. You can't have the conviction. You simply can't. You can't know what it feels like to look at a woman, your wife, and say, I couldn't imagine being without you now. And yet I could before. You imagine, because you're out there working and you're mixing with boys all the time, you know, the lads and that. And then you reach a point in life where you realize these people, children, you know, and the wife, and close old friends.
So this song is about someone, a man of a certain age who has gained certain experience and has a certain enlightenment as a result.
Yeah, he says, I need a soulmate to hold me and a friend for life.
I tell you what, let's pause at this stage and let's consider the stage that you are at, because you kindly recorded for us A Friend for Life with your regular guitarist, Robbie Gladwell. So let's take a listen to that right now.
When I think of life as a chance not taken, or as a compromise tinged with regret, when the kids leave for breeding and the TV's king, will you tell me we're not done yet? Will you think of me as a distant island, or will you come with me to the moon? I need a soulmate to hold me and a friend for life, and I'm hoping it might be you. Give me asylum and I'll keep the faith. Keep me in coffee and so safe, and I'll feed you cats and I'll paint walls, and I'll be your one night stand.
Now, Steve, so far we've got you having a fairly simple service, I think, in your local church in Suffolk. Lots of different readings and music. We haven't really spoken about the readings yet. What kind of things would you like to have read at your service?
Oh, well, secular, you know. I'm just not important enough to the Bible's way, you know, the poet's corner in Westminster Abbey.
Really, is that the way you feel?
Yeah, I mean, the only person who does what I do that would merit that kind of serious treatment of any sort would be Dylan. So I would want it as a humble little service, you know, some T.S. Eliot, you know, the stuff that just moves me. And I mean, I don't know. I've got friends who claim touches of psychic power who believe that one will be there watching it all. I'm not sure myself, but
would you rule that out?
I wouldn't rule anything out. No. I'm broad-minded enough to give everything a shot. You know, I'm the gambler. You know, and I don't rule anything out. Never say never. No.
So, any particular piece of T.S. Eliot, and who might read it? And
yeah, there's a piece from Burnt Norton which I read a lot. I read the 4 quartets all the time.
You've chosen that particular piece, and as it happens, we've asked somebody to recite a bit from Burnt Norton.
Oh, good, have you?
And we've asked Anthony Harding, your former English teacher, from Haberdasher's Ask
My English
School.
teacher, my dear friend, and who turned me on to this wonderful literature in the first place.
Here he is.
Love is itself unmoving. Only the cause and end of movement, timeless and undesiring, except in the aspect of time, caught in the form of limitation, between unbeing and being. Sudden in a shaft of sunlight, even while the dust moves, there rises the hidden laughter of children in the foliage. Quick now, here, now and always. Ridiculous, the waste, sad time stretching before and after.
A nice surprise?
Yeah, terrible. Yeah, yeah, wonderful. Bless him. Thank you. It's a big shock. Yeah, he's a great friend and a beautiful man. And he can read too, can't he?
Yeah, he certainly can. He certainly can.
Oh, that's sweet of you. That's so sweet. Yeah.
Did he have a big impact on you?
Yeah, yeah. We did an A-level together when I was 35. You know, 36, 37. Yeah. When I had lots of spare time, and he's a wonderful, wonderful man, and literature is, after his family, is his life. He's a great writer, and he's one of the finest school teachers you could imagine.
Let's go back to the place that I know you don't want to be, not for a while yet,
So
as
underground.
you've said. Yes, underground, until you're 100. What do you imagine the mood would be at your funeral?
Now, that's not fair. I have no idea of how anyone, my wife, my best friends, my kids, the public. Listen, one of my best friends was Mark Bolan, and he died just weeks after Elvis. And we were together 2 days after Elvis died. And Mark, I mean, he wasn't arrogant really, but he had the chutzpah. He was show busy, Mark. He was a star. And he said, "Oh, I'd hate to go now." You know, 2 days after, I was, "I'd hate to go now. I'd only get a paragraph on page 3." He was conscious of all this. You know? I don't know how people will react, and I, frankly, couldn't care less. I mean,
Not at all.
not at all. No, not at all.
Wouldn't care if nobody turned up?
Why would I care if I'm not there? I don't believe in history. I'll explain that. I don't believe in hanging on to the past. What's done is done. Let it go. We have to move onward and upward, forwards. Let it go.
Unfortunately, I suppose, or not unfortunately, but factually, that funerals are often about history because they're often a remembrance of that person who's now gone.
Yeah.
would you imagine that anyone would speak more personally about you? I mean, you picked a beautiful piece of literature with T.S. Eliot, but somebody speaking about Steve Harley or even Steve Nice as you were born.
Frankly, I think that I am the songs. The rest of it is just getting through life and trying not to be a bad guy and trying to make sure that the children are good children and not mugging old ladies.
But you can't be the songs to your wife and to your children.
Yeah, but when you're gone, you're gone.
But they're going to remember you as dad and as husband.
She's such a character. I'd want her to fall madly in love with another man.
Really? Hand on heart?
Absolutely, totally hand on heart. She's so wonderful. Yeah. People deserve that. I wouldn't want anyone to mourn for too long. Not at all. If I went tomorrow, I would expect it to be forgotten fairly soon. I'm not that significant.
But would you not mourn
to
your
my
wife?
To my family, I can understand your point. I would be missed because I'm quite, I'm not a man mountain physically, but I've got character. I mean, I have a voice and I like to be heard. I'm a good listener too, as well, I must say, but I try to be. I do try to be a good listener. No, I would expect people to manage perfectly well without me. Totally, the world does. I mean, think about it.
Going right back, we're talking about your school years when, we saw Anthony Harding there, but you were very ill as a child.
Yeah.
You had polio, and you spent a lot of time in hospital.
Yeah, but I was lucky. I only limp in one leg.
You regard yourself
relative.
as lucky?
Of course, it's all relative. I can't run for the bus. Do I care? I grew up not running for the bus. My friends would start running and they were wonderful. They used to turn back and go, "No, Steve can't keep up."
So as a child,
Fabulous.
you don't remember that particularly as a difficult or unhappy time?
As a kid, you don't. I was unhappy because I saw the others suffering. I saw kids holding hearts, and in the 50s and 60s, there was a lot of inevitable death, where today there's survival.
Do you think that shaped you at all?
Yeah, I know how lucky I am. Of course it shaped me, yeah.
I'm going to go back to your funeral, I'm sorry. I think we should have some more music. What other pieces of music would you put in there?
I would make them all sit through 10 minutes of Dylan singing Desolation Row from Highway 61 Revisited. I would make them all sit through that. Most of those who would be there would appreciate would either be Dylan fans anyway, or would appreciate the great poetry of the song anyway. Dylan changed everything. In some ways he was as influential as my dad and Tony Harding.
Oh, he personally changed things for you?
Oh, in a huge way. I mean, when I was 12 in '63, I was listening to whatever he had out at the time, Another Side of Bob Dylan, and the times they are a-changing. When you're a 12 and 13-year-old budding poet, and this is brought into your hospital bed, and you got the Dan set sitting there on the cabinet, and you put that on. Profound effect. Had a profound effect.
You do obviously think about things. I mean, you've said that you're constantly asking questions, looking for answers. You hope that you're around with us until you're 100. I might not be here by that stage because you've got so much that you want to do and you're as yet unfulfilled. Do you ever see yourself reaching a stage that you'll be able just to say, right, that's it, I can go. I've done everything.
There's not a chance that I would. I head on, I move forwards, and I look forward to tomorrow all the time. I'm excited about life, I really am. I'm excited by life, but I can't imagine that. No, that's just not possible. I've said to you, I believe totally and utterly in an unreachable goal, totally and utterly. If I thought I could reach my dreams, there would be no point in dreaming. There would be no point in waking up.
But does that mean when you hit your funeral, you will hit it unfulfilled?
On a professional level, I expect to be unfulfilled, yeah.
On a personal level?
If you read, on a personal level, no, I would be very disappointed if I reach old age and anyone could say to me, "You've disappointed the family. You didn't support us," and you know, I did grow up when my first was born, to a degree, because I didn't want to be the oldest teenager on the block. You know what I'm saying? No, I think personally I'd like to think that I'd done enough to sort of merit a little pat on the back, only a little one, but...
Is there a piece of music at your funeral that you would like to play that is just a beautiful piece of music?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of classical music because I drive quite a lot, and that's what tends to be on the CD player in my car. So I listen to a lot of classical music, and there's a lot. I could choose any one of dozens of pieces, and for your benefit, for the benefit of my premature pretend funeral, I have picked a piece from Mascagni. It's an intermezzo played in one of his operas whose title I can never remember. The Cavaliers from the Countryside is basically what it means in English. And it's a very powerful story of jealousy and unrequited love and bitterness.
I'm going to ask you one last question. Could you write yourself an epitaph?
I wouldn't want to. I would be far more interested to find out what others thought of me. But I think about it sometimes. I mean, all there is you want them to say, you want it to say he tried to be a decent guy and he wrote "Make Me Smile." That'll do. You know.
That's it?
Yeah, that's all I've done.
Well, Steve Harley, thanks so much for sharing your ideal funeral with us. As a little surprise, we're going to ask our resident string quartet, Sigma, to play the intermezzo from Mascagni's Cavalleria Rusticana. Please enjoy it.
Thank you.